Welcome to another episode of the Nebulum podcast. And on this podcast, we try to inspire fulfillment and try to get people walking the path of fulfillment in hopes of creating a happier world and a more fulfilled society. Um, yeah, I'm Zale.
I'm Grant.
Feel like we don't usually say our names. We haven't been. But yeah, that is who we are. And yeah, we're just gonna jump right into some chat-ins. What are we talking about?
Yeah. Today, we are talking about the topic of systems, which is a very broad topic. So, yeah, I wanted to chat about this because systems, well, we'll define systems in our own ways, but for me, it seems like systems are really what creates our activities in the world, and like systems seem to dictate how the world works and who wins in the world, who gets advantages, and yeah, they just seem to dictate a lot of things. So I wanted to chat about systems, like maybe we can start at the personal level, personal systems, how they affect our behaviors, our moods, our fulfillment, because they definitely can dictate whether we feel fulfilled or not based on what system we're running. But then I also wanted to like expand that to socially and globally, what systems exist in our world, what systems are dominant, and what systems are we creating with this podcast and this Nebulum journey. Um, so yeah, I guess we can start by maybe we can both define what we mean by systems. So would love to hear what you think.
Yeah. So I feel like a system is simply a repeatable process or an easily repeatable process. And I guess the ease with which it's repeatable depends on the strength of the system. That's kind of the strength of the system implies the ease with which it is to repeat that process, I believe.
Mm.
It can be, I mean, it's a broad term, but it's supposed to be something that you know, set up that makes things happen repeatedly. It can be simple as, uh, defining a sequence of steps to do something. So let's say you, I don't know, let's say you want to practice something, right? Or actually, let's say you want to pack for a trip. Like, let's say you go on trips often and you pack for a trip, and sometimes you forget what you need to take and like things like that, and you leave things and you have to like, you get to the airport and you don't have your passport, things like that. Creating a system could be something simple as saying, okay, uh, starting 2 days before my trip, I'm gonna write a checklist of everything that I need. And on the day of the trip, I'm gonna tick off each item on the checklist, look at each item, make sure that they're in my bag, and then go. That's a system, right? That's a system which ensures that you don't forget the things you need. Um, it's a repeatable process. It's just like a standard operating procedure,
Mm.
right? A system can be more complex, like, you know, how different people operate and things like that. But essentially, it's supposed to make things easier for you, and easier for, it could be a group of people, to accomplish some goal. Um,
Mm.
and usually, you know, when you're trying to accomplish goals, build habits, walk certain paths, I think the strength of your systems is what's going to dictate the success of that journey.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually never heard you speak about your definition of a system before, so that's a I'm glad we're talking about this.
Mhm.
So yeah, you kind of define it as like, a series of repeatable steps. It was good to get your perspective on it. I feel like that actually helps me to like shape what I also think I mean by a system.
Mhm.
I like the example you shared of like the travel checklist. So I think maybe my example is different, but I want to see if we can align our definitions because at first I was like, I don't know if our definitions are the same,
Mm,
but they might be.
mm,
So I guess when I think about systems, I think about like the financial system, the political system, but then I think you did a really good job of scaling it down to
mm,
like the bare, you know, building blocks.
mm,
So I guess I also think of like a river as a system for water movement. And then
mm.
like I also thought of like ecosystems. Uh I guess, do ecosystems have a goal? Uh I don't know. Maybe the goal is to survive,
Mm,
thrive. But yeah, maybe my definition is a bit more vague.
mhm,
But when I think of like um a water system, it's a process. I guess when I think of a water system, it's like, okay, there might be pipes here, pipes under the house, pipes, and they all connect to like the sewer. So like when you poop, you know, it'll go down there, and everyone's goes down there, and then
mm,
it's so I feel like the system is okay. Let's move waste out of your home, out of all these people's homes, and let's move it to one singular place to be processed.
mm.
So I guess if that's the goal of the system, then the system itself is the design, the implementation of that goal.
Mhm.
So, yeah, do you feel like that aligns with like your definition, or cuz like I feel like it would be good to align on this before we continue.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, if I understand correctly, your idea of a system is more kind of just like a set of complex processes, or like uh hmm, maybe yeah, maybe tell me again in like a phrase or something.
Yeah, so I guess maybe I see a system as a particular design
Mm,
in order to achieve some goal.
okay.
But then I don't know if I think we can go with that for now.
Okay.
But then in the case of like an ecosystem,
Mhm.
I'm not sure what the goal is,
Mhm.
but I still think there's a system there.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I think we can go with the goal achieving thing now, but I actually don't think there has to be a goal.
Yeah, let's explore that. I think yeah, goal is interesting. Because a system can emerge,
Yes.
right? A
Yes.
system can emerge
Yes.
from what is already occurring.
Yes. It
Uh,
can be a bottom up process.
it can be a bottom up
Yes.
process, right? There's already processes occurring.
Yeah, I think the goal might be optional because our bodies, our systems, right? And I
Mhm.
don't know specifically if our bodies are trying to achieve a goal, but they are work. Our body is a complex set of different processes, and their synergistic their synergy is. I feel like that is a system. We can think of the body like the sympathetic nervous system.
Mhm.
It's a
Mhm.
system of different things
Mhm.
happening.
Mhm.
Maybe the goal for that system is to survive, but
Mhm.
in the case of an ecosystem, I guess uh, I don't know if I I don't know what the goal is. Maybe I guess the piece of a goal is optional, but maybe it's a set of processes working together.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I guess when you start talking about goals, it becomes a matter of perspective, in my opinion. Um, because if you really follow it, then you get to like, okay, what's the goal of life? What's the point of life? Why are we here? Uh, and that is probably not the discussion we're here to have today.
true.
Um, so I think in emergent systems, it becomes the quote unquote goal becomes just a matter of perspective, um, and you kind of it becomes descriptive rather than prescriptive, right? So, uh, I mean, top down, like you prescribe the goal and you intentionally create the system to achieve that goal. Uh, in the bottom up emergent process, you know, it would be more describing what goal you see it achieving. Um,
Mm.
right. But in a sense, you could say there is a goal because you see what, there's what things the system is optimizing for, right? Like you see that our nervous system optimizes for the transmission of electrical signals to different parts of our body in order to activate different processes in our body, other systems, um, right? And so the goal becomes prescriptive. So I guess as the core of a system is that it optimizes for something, right?
Mm.
There are protocols, there are methods of communication that get repeated in this system, right? Um, in our body, the nervous system interacts with the respiratory system, interacts with other systems in very specific ways. They're they're defined protocols, but they're not defined in the sense of they were prescribed and designed. Well, it depends on your beliefs, right? They could have been designed. Uh, but depending on your beliefs, we're simply describing these protocols.
Yeah.
But the core of it is that there are protocols. There are things that are repeated over and over that optimize for certain things. And I think that's the
Yes.
core of what a system is.
Yeah. I think that I feel aligned with that because, like, if I take the digestive system, we label the digestive system. You eat food, it optimizes for energy extraction
Mhm.
of certain, I don't know, carbs,
Mhm.
protein. It
Mhm.
optimizes to get those, and then you poop.
Yeah.
So that in that example, that makes sense to me, where it's a bunch of protocols which are optimizing for a certain thing,
Yes.
and different uh processes work together to create a system.
Yes. Yes.
So that makes sense to me. Um, cool. Yeah.
Perfect.
So I guess, why are systems important? Um, One thing I wanted to touch on is that, personally, I believe systems have inbuilt values.
Mm.
And I want to get to, like, the societal part later, where we can talk about what systems in society exist and what do they optimize for and what values are built into them.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to start with the personal level of, like, why are systems important um, in creating personal fulfillment
Mm-hmm.
and personal well-being, because we systems are a way of looking at our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So we can intentionally create them or unintentionally create them. And yeah, I think we should talk about the impact of systems on people's personal, like, lives, individual lives,
Mm-hmm.
and then move up to, like, societies and
Mm-hmm.
such.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think we should talk about systems on a personal level. How do systems affect you? How do systems affect me?
Mm-hmm.
And then how we can maybe leverage that information to iterate upon those to
Yeah.
improve our quality of life and lead to improved fulfillment, basically, more
Yeah.
fulfillment.
Yeah. 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 So I mean, on a personal level, so I mean, on a very small scale, right? Um, or on any scale, a system, as we said, optimizes for something. And I I do align with what you said that there are built-in values into a system because those values are simply what is the system optimizing for. Um, whether you consider it a value, I guess maybe we should define value, but the system optimizes for something. And is that thing that it's optimizing for what you want it to be optimizing for? Right. And we don't really operate without systems. There are, I think, I mean, I guess everything is a system, right? Or maybe you start calling it a system once it starts getting more organized and more repeatable or more repeated. Uh, However, if you on a personal level, if you have certain goals, or let's say, okay, let's habits are systems, right? If you have certain habits, those are existing systems that optimize for particular things in your life,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you have a habit, I know you have a habit of like brushing your teeth every single night before you go to bed and like flossing with your like
Hey, how do you know that? But
right.
yes, I
That's
do.
a system, right? That's a system which optimizes for your dental hygiene, right? So you have a particular protocol. You probably, your toothbrush is probably the exact same place in your bathroom
It's
every
true.
time, right? Probably most people's are, honestly, because that seems common. I won't say most, many people. Uh, but you leave your toothbrush at that exact same place at X time before you go to bed. You go pick your toothbrush up. Your toothpaste is probably right beside it. You put the toothpaste on. You do these. This is a system, right? If it's repeated because you always leave your toothbrush the same place. The toothpaste is always like a few inches from the toothbrush, probably, right? You Before you go to bed, you brush your teeth. When you wake up, maybe you brush your teeth, right? This is a system which optimizes for dental hygiene. If you were to change something about this system, like if the toothpaste were in your neighbor's house, I don't know why that would happen, but then maybe it's a little more difficult to optimize for your dental hygiene. So the nature of your system is going to affect the efficiency of things you're trying to do in life. And so it becomes very important on an individual level to observe what systems are currently in place and what systems do I need to implement to optimize for uh, things that I want to optimize for. So when you talk about values, it's like, okay, what are my values? And then how do I architect systems around those values? Yeah, I'll pause there.
Yeah, I think that was a good example to use. The toothbrush, and yeah, I want to move on to basically why this came up for me was I was watching this video, and it was saying like, well, I didn't really watch the video, but I read the comments to learn what the video was about, and then
Hmm.
basically it was that cyclists have not as good bone density, and I
Hmm.
was like thinking, and the reason I was thinking about this is because I was doing I've been cycling a lot more, and obviously that creates physical fitness, but the issue is that your body needs a well-rounded uh, stimuli
Hmm.
basically to create a healthy version of yourself,
Hmm.
and I was like, I want to create, I want to strength train more,
Hmm.
because I've had systems, I have had habits of strength training in the past,
Hmm.
but I've been doing it less now. So I was like, okay, I want to implement that back in,
Hmm.
and I want to do it consistently, right? Because I feel like consistency is what creates all of the things that I want.
Hmm.
Um, so then it got me thinking, how can I create a repeatable process where I can have consistency in both of these habits?
Hmm.
So that's what kind of sparked this idea for me of like personal systems.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what got me thinking about this in the first place.
Yeah.
So we should also talk about, if I want to achieve some goal based on these values in my life. I value physical fitness, I value bone density, I value enjoying my time. That's another key one. Um, how can I combine those to create a system where I am strength training, I'm riding my bicycle, and I'm having fun doing all those things basically.
Hmm.
And I can integrate those into my life seamlessly where I no longer have to think about doing them. Basically, based on these values that we have in our lives, if we want to optimize for those, let's say we don't feel like we're optimizing as well for those,
Hmm.
we want to create a life that we think would lead to better fulfillment and higher quality of life. Like, let's say, I want to do these things. Like, I want to do weight training, cycling, and enjoy doing them.
Mm-hmm.
Just as a small example, let's start talking about how do we identify the current systems
Mm-hmm.
and how do we begin to implement new systems.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like a lot of people listening, and you and I both, we want to create systems that will lead to better fulfillment. Because at the end of the day, I think a huge thing that dictates the quality of our lives is the
Mm-hmm.
systems
Mm-hmm.
we're running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, all right, let's take your example then. Um, Cycling, weight training, and enjoyment. So, let's analyze what the current system is. You mentioned you do cycle, you haven't weight trained in a while. So, we can analyze both your current system and the previous system you had when you were weight training uh, frequently. So, let's start with the current system. What you cycle often. What's When do you cycle? Why do you cycle? Do you enjoy it? What's your process for getting started? What's your process for deciding I'm going to cycle today and all that?
Well, if I take it, that's actually a great bundle of questions there. I haven't really, I guess, been super intentional about it, but I think recently I've just had this goal of, doing it for maybe 10 hours a week. And I've decided based on the days of the week, on weekends I have more time so I can do it for longer. Weekdays shorter, every other day on a weekdays maybe. Why do I do it? It feels good. It's I get to experience traveling to different areas of my where I live. I can see growth in like my statistics. I can track it. Um, yeah, all these different factors play into the enjoyment of it.
Mm,
And the other thing that's important though is that after I ride my bike or as a result of riding my bike, I'm exhausted.
mm,
So, riding my bike for a long time, um, maybe there's not enough room for the weight training to fit in there. So
mm,
this week I've been taking a break because I went on a ride and my legs were like, nah, dude.
mm,
So then for this week, I'm like, okay, I'm taking a break. And that allowed space for the weight training to emerge. So that's data for me to like inform, going forward, how can I create a system where the weight training is more consistent? But did I answer some of the questions you were asking and then
yeah.
move forward?
Yeah. So you spoke a bit towards your motivation. Uh, you like seeing the area in which you live. Cycling allows you to explore a bit, that sort of thing. Uh, Exercise, you like it, all of that. Um, and you had this goal of cycling. You said 10 hours a week,
Yeah, yeah, I
right?
think, and that was motivated by, I want to improve my cycling fitness
Mm-hmm.
to a level where I feel uh, like an expert. So I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's what motivates that like time
Mm-hmm.
goal.
Mm-hmm. And then you became exhausted, and so you're taking a break from cycling, and then weight training emerges from that. So the question is, can you create a cadence where you cycle between cycling and weight training, right? Like, because it seems that cycle kind of naturally emerges, and so can you just make that into your system? And so the question becomes, do you feel like that will still optimize for your goal of becoming an expert cyclist, um, and also achieving the goals of weight training? So like that long break from cycling, does it still meet the goal of becoming an expert cyclist? That's the question for
Yeah.
you.
Um. Well, I like that we're getting into like very like personal details here because then I can really just like uh, talk about it very personally. But yes, I think that's what I've started realizing.
Mm-hmm.
So when I take a break from cycling, when I cycle off cycling for, a week or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
all that energy that I was using for that now is able to be channeled into other areas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the other thing though about like outlining that this is the cycle, I think that brings more clarity because, for example, on certain days when I might not be feeling like I'm like not feeling as energized, I'll still go for that bike ride because I have that habit slash system in place that I go for a bike ride on Wednesdays or
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that gets me so having that system in my mind
Mm-hmm.
helps me to move past like how I'm emotionally feeling in the moment at times.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain times where it's like, okay, no, like let's take a break.
Mm-hmm.
But then for those times where you can, it's just that little mental blockage.
Mm-hmm.
It helps that system helps to get past that and keep moving for that thing you're optimizing for.
Right.
Um, so I guess this cycling on and off thing I haven't defined as my system yet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there would, I guess, what I'm trying to get at is I think there would be value in learning, how my body naturally gets tired and then move to a different cycle and then
Mm-hmm.
define that as a system that emerges, but
Mm-hmm.
then kind of put some intention into it
Mm-hmm.
where I do have some sort of consistency and cadence
Mm-hmm.
to make me feel more at ease, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
more like secure with it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like that was kind of a blabber, but yeah, what are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
so I want to extract like a principle here from this because you're talking about observing your body's natural cadences and observing the systems that emerge. And I think this is an important uh, facet of forming a system because we all already operate within systems, right? Our body is a system. Uh, the cycles of the day, that's a system. You, if you have a 9 to 5 job, you're operating within that system of society, family, all these things. And so they're gonna be they're gonna be ways in which systems we're trying to create interact and interoperate with existing systems. And so it's going to be important to find where do the systems that we're trying to create resonate versus conflict the existing systems. Because if you're fighting against existing systems, which we're probably going to get to fighting against existing systems, um, there's going to be resistance, right? If you're still operating within a system and that's in direct conflict with a different system, and you're trying to it's dissonance, right? um they will they can cancel each other out, or they can sum and make each other more powerful. So existing within for like your body, right? You're gonna want to understand how your energy cycles throughout the day, month. That's going to be important for women too, for the month, um year, whatever. um what your chronotype is, like when you feel most wakeful, when you feel most motivated, these kinds of things. And so you're gonna want to tailor your systems uh to suit that, unless you're intentionally deciding to dismantle the existing systems that you don't want to resonate with, basically. um so observing like what systems emerge and playing off of that is, I think, a good way to form systems, because that's just already telling you what resonates, what's going to be an easier system to create or an easier system to follow, basically. And so, getting back to the specific of your cycling and working out and everything, um, you already observe like this natural cycling tendency, right? Like cycling between cycling and not. So, just using that as an opportunity to like define a new system where you can have both might be a good uh might be a good way to do it. And then you can tune the cadence, right? Is it week on, week off? Is it month on, week off? Is it month on, week off, but in the middle of the month there's like a couple days where you know it's gonna you're gonna like try to tune it, just like you're tuning your weight radio to like resonate with the frequency of the tower, right? So yeah. Did you have another? Did that answer what you were asking?
I think you made some really good points about like going with the emergent system to define a more a combination between an emergent system and a prescription system
Mm-hmm.
to where you can kind of tune them to work together and
Mm-hmm.
like synergize.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that. Yeah, and another thing is you also mentioned like observe the current patterns and then from there um you can see what works, but a key part of that is being able to observe. And then another thing that I really think we should continue to talk about was the resonance.
Mm-hmm.
So like I really thought it was important how you were describing how the existing system that I am trying to define to create a specific goal is functioning within an ecosystem, like a how do you describe it? An interconnected web of different systems,
Yes.
like the 9 to 5 system, for example, which many
Yes.
people are working in, and including myself, I work on the weekdays. So
Yes.
that's another system that I have to take into account when I gauge my energy levels. How much energy can I expect to have
Yes.
remaining to do this new system?
Mm-hmm.
So that's super huge part of the story, like
Mm-hmm.
family systems, society systems. These all create different environments to where it might make it easier or harder to implement a new system depending on that system and how it uh, resonates in
Mm-hmm.
these existing ones. Um, I actually wanted to talk about um, another system that I thought about, and I
Mm-hmm.
think this one might be slightly different. Um, People might resonate with this one a bit more, but I think it's a good example. Is basically diet, um, because that is a good example of how there are existing systems like the food industry,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's our goals, our personal goals. Is like we all want to eat healthy, feel good, but then there are a lot of factors that make it very difficult
Mm-hmm.
to do so.
Mm-hmm.
We should talk about how do we face those difficulties in implementing a new system like that? Because, for example, if I'm feeling bloated for a few days and I'm like, I don't feel good, the food I'm eating is contributing to this. I want a more stable system to where I'm able to function within the system that has this food industry and has all these, sweets and desserts and all that. How do I maintain my how do I maintain my diet in a way that I can eat healthy within this system, you know? Because I think that's a big thing that we have to deal with these days is industries basically making it very difficult to they're hijacking our biology. Like an example for like scrolling on Instagram. I don't want to do that, but I still do because that's the dopamine system I'm running. And I think for these cases we need intentional systems that are create a sort of discipline where I'm not running these destructive habits. So I think we should speak about that too because I um would like to implement more of these in my life, and I'm curious about your thoughts on creating systems like that would are created with intention, basically realizing that okay, I'm doing a habit that doesn't feel so good. There are systems in place to make me keep doing this thing that doesn't make me feel good. How can I put in a system that helps me to not keep going down these same pathways?
Yeah. so so this gets more into now, like, how do we dismantle existing systems, or how do we decouple uh the system we create from, not decouple, but we don't necessarily want to resonate with particular systems, right? We don't want to resonate with the system of scrolling every day, or the system of bad food being pumped into households and things like that, right? um And so on the surface, it might seem like we're going to have to fight against a gigantic existing system, which seems like a task. However, I think then we have to, then, okay, what we have to do in this case is find resonances. Maybe a system on a whole is bad, but parts of that system can help resonate a new system. Or other systems, we can find other systems to resonate with, for example. So it's going to be, okay, finding where the resonances are and finding where we can build on top of. Um, Finding foundations, finding other, things we can build on top of, as I said. So diet. It's complex because motivation plays a role. Um, like dismantling existing habits of dopamine seeking and instant gratification and having, let's say some people are really have big sweet tooths and like are addicted to sweets, and so maybe they just like every time there's a sweet they just have to have it.
Mhm.
um and maybe on the other hand, this is like long term making them not feel great, but in the moment it's nice. Or in the moment you don't want to cook, you'd rather just stop at In and Out and grab like a double double. I just learned what that is. Um and I mean, again, it depends on your values. Like, if you in particular don't actually care, then who's to say you need to change that, right? Because you know, different people optimize for different things, uh, and so I just wanted to say that because I don't want to create a preachy atmosphere
Yeah, yeah,
where we're
yeah.
like, you shouldn't be doing
Yeah,
eating certain things. Not
totally.
that. So it's assuming you just want to be able to change the way you eat, the way you live in
Yeah, this
certain ways.
is this is assuming that you have something that you want to change
Yeah.
and you want a technique to do that,
Yeah.
or you want help in the direction of how do you create a different path, basically.
Yeah.
You want to This is assuming you want to create that new path.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. So yeah, that was just a quick aside just to have that caveat.
appreciate that.
Yeah. And so okay, then it's gonna be like, okay, why, let's say it's the instant gratification, right? That can be a factor. I have a habit of instant gratification. It might be interesting to observe why that is. Maybe because um, I have a high stress lifestyle. And so when I feel like there's a relief to that stress in a particular moment, and I have learned ways to relieve that stress, like eating some cake or, eating like 5 burgers, um, it feels good, right? And so, however, I'm trying to not do that. Right. I'm assuming this is your situation. So then it becomes okay. One part of the root is like the high stress lifestyle. One angle of creating a new system, because sometimes in creating a new system here, you have to look at what's feeding into the system or what's inhibiting the system, and maybe it requires tuning a different system and then getting back to how to resonate. And so maybe you tune first the stress levels, right? Fundamentally, rather than um, you know the instant gratification way, because maybe the instant gratification is simply the system to relieve stress.
Hmm.
And if that's the case, then maybe we have to create a different protocol for relieving stress, which weakens the purpose of this system. So it becomes less emergent, I guess, because the need for it starts going away, right? So if I, things we've talked about before in terms of burnout and things like that, if I maybe start doing some yoga or start doing other things, start hanging out with people, uh, because maybe a lot of my stress comes from loneliness and things like that. Uh, then we can start satisfying that need, or reducing, having other ways of reducing stress. Then that weakens this instant gratification system. It might still be there because we already have the habit, right? And then it's okay once we have that. uh Maybe the other thing that's feeding into it is that cake is very easily accessible, right? And so maybe part of the system is increasing the difficulty of acquiring cake, or increasing the difficulty of acquiring um 5 burgers.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I had in my mind that I wanted to speak about,
Yeah.
is because that actually plays an enormous role, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, the barrier to entry like will decide like whether that thing gets fed.
Yeah.
But continue.
I mean, yeah. So maybe your habit is like, whenever I go supermarket shopping, I just buy some sweets just to stock the house. Maybe that's just part of my grocery list. Maybe take it off the grocery list. And so in the middle of the night when you have that craving, you can't satisfy it. And so then you'll need something to replace the way you satisfy that craving. And maybe you just choose something else, right? And so that could be part of your system, like removing it from the grocery list. Like, not so, I guess this isn't adding something, it's removing something. But that's also changing the system we're operating in, right? Another thing could be, maybe my level of motivation isn't strong enough. Uh, and so I need to find a way to increase the motivation of like reducing this habit or something, or increase the increase the influence I'm getting to eat more healthily. And so maybe part of my system is every day I watch like some health YouTube stuff,
Hmm.
right?
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, so this is actually part of my systems. I am heavily influenced by the content I intake. And so part of my system of creating systems or changing systems is intentionally consuming content around the thing that I want. Because I'm the type of person who will get that, like, from watching something, who will get that, like, moment of inspiration. And so I just feed that into myself more regularly. And so that helps me focus more. And this goes back to our conversations around focus. Um, it becomes, just that repetition, which helps me focus more and feel inspired more to do the thing I want to do. Because inspiration and how you feel is part of the system. And again, we need to play on what like already resonates. I already resonate with certain types of content, and so I just tune that and feed that more into how I'm trying to live and how I'm trying to do things. So yeah.
That's uh, all great points. Yeah, you mentioned a bunch of stuff about like our motivations, root causes for our habits, and
Mm-hmm.
replacing or removing things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, basically creating an environment in which our new system can thrive, which you can get creative about all different sorts of ways to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Getting inspiration from content, I feel like is a big one too.
Mm-hmm.
For me, um, I wanted to touch on like a recent experience I had with this. Um, so like some days when I wake up, like let's say on the weekend, um, and I'm tired
Mm-hmm.
and I don't really want to get out of bed per se, because I feel like, a lot of habits that I want to do require a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
So there have been mornings where I, scroll on YouTube shorts for an hour, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but maybe I don't like how that feels as much.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that my intention was to try to be more minimal and like reduce the dopamine and basically just live a more intentional life. So instead of going on the phone for an hour, I went on it for maybe 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I was like, okay, I think it's time to try something different. So even though I had low energy, I just took the step one of getting out of bed and then used that low energy to be like, okay, let me do a low energy habit, like organizing the stuff in my room to make the space more minimal. So that habit of doing that low energy thing that was like also pretty easy
Mm-hmm.
of just like organizing um can create that environment of like more focus basically and like make me feel good. So what I did was replace this scrolling thing, like when I have low energy scroll, to when I have low energy clean up my space.
Yeah.
And basically what that did was it enhanced my habit of, not doing such a dopamine intensive activity. So lower my dopamine threshold, I guess,
Yeah.
but then also create the environment that makes me feel good,
Yeah.
like makes me not feel overloaded. So like
Yeah.
cleaning the stuff. So I just wanted to say that as an example for replacing one habit with another and like the waterfall effects that can have.
Yeah.
Um, just yeah, wanted to state that example.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
Yeah. I mean, another principle, right, is manipulating your environment to because your environment is also a system, um, which is an input into many other systems, right? Uh, the environment we see, input visual cortex, how we interpret that feeds into how our body feels, our emotions, and all of that, which impact our mood, which impact our motivation levels, our energy levels, which impact the triggers that we have. We all,
Yeah, triggers are huge. Triggers are a
exactly,
huge one. Yeah.
exactly. And so the environment becomes like a huge leverage point in changing systems,
Yeah.
right? And the even meta principle from that is what you were talking about, kind of the waterfall um, effect. Like pools feed into pools, feed into pools, feed into pools, feed into pools. And so when we try to look at the landscape of different waterfalls and rivers that feed into each other, uh, we can then see different points at which we can uh, tune to impact downstream systems.
Yeah. I think this is a huge point in basically tuning systems to, because it's an interconnected web of systems,
Mm-hmm.
the one system you have can have downstream effects on a lot of other ones.
Yes.
So you're basically talking about the interconnected nature of them
Yes.
and how they can feed into each other.
Yes.
So one habit you make can have downstream effects on your entire life
Yes.
systems.
Yes. Yes. And so it becomes important to figure out how the systems are interconnected. Because if we know how the systems are interconnected, then we can figure out different leverage points, right? Because we all know that tackling symptoms versus root problems is a huge difference. Tackling the root of the issue is going to be far more powerful than tackling the symptom of the issue. So maybe you're trying to fix a particular system, but a higher level system or lower level, depending on how your perspective is, that's feeding into that system might be a much more powerful way to change that system. And so, for example, um, you were talking about like getting out of bed in the morning and things like that, right? Mel Robbins, I don't know if you know Mel Robbins. She wrote a book called The 5 Second Rule, right? Where she proposes a system where you develop the habit of counting down from five and doing the thing you want to do. And so that is a very good system which can be leveraged for many other systems. where you have to make a decision, right? So for example, basically she's the what she's proposing is a habit of reducing the time between thought and action, right? So, and the way she does it, she has this 5 second protocol. It's a good book to read. It works for a lot of people. Uh, and so let's say you have the habit of, once you count down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, like you have a thought that you want to do something, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you just jump into action. If you manage to create that habit, then you can then use it in many different places, like getting out of bed. Because once you start counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you have the habit of just getting up and doing the thing. So reducing the time between thought and action, or decision and action, in general, is a good, like, high leverage system to create, which can be used in, to trigger many other different systems. So that's an example of where you can create an upstream system which has many downstream effects, right? Um, and this downstream effect, well, it's a double-edged sword too, because when you change upstream, you can affect more things than you were intending to affect. And a good example with this is medication, right? Uh, Medication is a way to manipulate a particular system. But we all know most medications have side effects that aren't the thing that it's for, right? Uh, but that's because we're changing an upstream that feeds into many different, because our body is very complex, very interconnected. And so if you know, inhibit one neurotransmitter, uh, yeah, it might have the effect you're intending, but it will have many different other effects that rely on that neurotransmitter not being inhibited, right? So it's important to understand how, I mean, and it's very complex. You're not going to be able to just see exactly how everything is going to affect everything. But if you try, it's a good thing to be thinking about. And a lot of it is going to come with experimentation. I think it's important to recognize that it's an iterative process, and it's not going to be like, okay, I'm just going to change this one thing and everything's going to work. No, you're going to have to, like, work with it.
Yeah, definitely gonna have to work with it, see what works for you specifically,
Hmm.
because everyone works differently. Um, I'm sure I had something I wanted to say, but I mean, yeah, I think what you're touching on makes complete sense. They feed into each other.
Hmm.
So these meta habits you can create can affect a lot of things. Like the 5 second rule, I kind of consider a meta habit
Yeah.
because it affects pretty much all your other habits.
Yeah.
It can.
Hmm.
Maybe you only do that for one thing. That's fine.
Hmm.
Um, but I guess that gets into like principles, which is another thing I feel like I kind of wanted to talk about because I feel like principles are kind of like systems. Love your take on this. But yeah, I guess for this like diet example, I think having systems is important, having good environment is important, but also having principles can help. I feel like create guardrails. Like I haven't been super successful in creating principles recently, but I have had principles previously where I was just like, I just don't eat sugar. And like I was able to like turn down cupcakes. And I feel like I guess one thing that I use to inform a lot of my principles is like, how do I feel? How have I felt previously after doing this thing? How have I felt previously after eating a cupcake?
Hmm.
Usually it's not very good.
Hmm.
And so I can use my previous experience to inform a principle I have to override my instant gratification mechanism.
Hmm.
Um, I think we should talk about principles. Like what principles to implement, how to implement. Uh,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Yeah. Um, Extremely powerful principles, and extremely necessary for the shaping of systems. So I guess when you talk about systems, there are protocols and there are principles, and they're kind of the same. So protocols are just protocols are just definitions of the sequence of steps and how, to do a certain thing, what to do, what are the steps, what is the protocol. um we have protocols for communication. I mean, language is a protocol for communication, right?
Language is a system, yeah.
Language is a system. um and the internet operates on protocols. How does this, like, what does this device need to package up? How does it need to organize information for this other device to understand? uh, as a protocol. And protocols are the glue of systems, I guess. But principles, I think, principles are kind of also protocols, but with much broader scope. So principles are essentially the, like, from a principle you may be able to derive different protocols in different specific situations. Protocols are more specific to a particular system, whereas principles, uh guardrails is a good way to look at it. Another way to look at it is the higher level abstraction of, you know how different protocols should operate. um it's a higher level abstraction that can be specified in particular systems.
Mm.
So let's go back to the simple toothbrush toothpaste example. um you want your toothpaste to be right beside your toothbrush, or you want your toothbrush to be in the same place every time. um that's going to be a protocol for that particular system of brushing your teeth every night, uh and dental hygiene. But maybe the principle you extract from that is, whatever I find important should be in close proximity.
Hmm.
So any system you're defining, the principle can be, any system I define, figure out what's important, put that in close proximity.
Hmm. So that's like an abstraction you created. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. And then the principles are going to be more closely tied to what your values are as a person, as an organization, as a society, because principles guide many different systems and how the whole large system operates, right? Because principles are the common threads between systems, right? Uh, and so that's where, whether it's emergent or prescribed, the principle will be more closely linked to what the value is.
Hmm. Okay. I wanted to give my own example actually of a principle because I feel like I want to see if our definitions of principles align.
Yeah.
I guess I kind of see them as like almost like rules in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Because like I guess when I think of the system I want to create of eating a healthier diet, that makes me feel really like good and like, you know, aesthetically look good.
Mm-hmm.
I think of the principle of like I only eat whole foods.
Mm-hmm.
Like foods that aren't like I don't know, like a cookie, like
Mm-hmm.
a fruit and a cookie. Like you
Mm-hmm.
don't eat the cookie because it's not a whole food.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I see that as a principle
Mm-hmm.
that helps um inform the system or is that a system? Because I see that as a rule. And
Mm-hmm.
like in my mind I see that as a principle. Do you see that as a principle?
The principle being, I don't eat whole foods. I
I
mean,
only eat whole
you only
foods.
eat whole
Yeah,
foods.
yeah, yeah.
It'd be a funny principle. I don't eat whole foods.
Like is veganism a principle or is it a system?
Yeah, I mean, words, right?
Yeah.
They're all kind of like,
They're just okay.
yeah.
Okay.
One framework I think is, systems are like a particular uh set of protocols.
Sure.
And protocols are simply, you know, they're all rules in a sense.
Okay.
Uh,
Sure.
in this situation, do this. In a situation in which I am presented with a cupcake, deny the cupcake. Right? That's a protocol.
Yeah.
And the principle which governs that protocol is I don't eat sweets, or the principle don't eat sweets, right? Only eat whole foods. And I guess the higher abstraction, what would be a set of principles, is an identity.
Mm.
And so I'm vegan, actually am, right? I, you know, that's the identity, which comes with a set of principles.
Mm.
One of the
Interesting.
one of the principles being, you know, don't eat meat. Just never eat meat.
Yeah.
Right? Never eat, never consume animal derived products.
Sure.
Right? Uh, that's a principle. And in particular circumstances, I will carry out that principle via different protocols. And so, um, you know, a protocol could be when I'm offered, or okay, a protocol is whenever I get a new product, read the ingredients to see if it has any animal derived products.
Sure.
That's a protocol. Because in order to align with that principle, I must do that because I need to know what I'm consuming.
Sure. I think that one's one of the easier ones, but I think one of the harder ones is, you know, avoiding the temptation, right? To like have a burger. If you really want to be vegan, the temptation to have a burger is there. So
Mhm.
then I guess the whole trump card to this whole thing is connecting your values with the identity of being
Mhm.
vegan. Cause like let's say someone wanted to transition to being vegan, but they were having a hard time
Mhm.
because, non-vegan food tastes really good, let's say.
Mhm. Mhm.
How do you connect your values, like your reason for wanting to be vegan has to be stronger than your craving for cheese, let's
Mhm.
say.
Mhm.
How do you get there, to really connect your values to that thing so that that choice of eating cheese no longer happens, basically?
Yeah.
Because that's the hard part. Reading the
Yeah.
ingredients is not hard.
Sure. 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 So I think you have to tackle it from many different angles and to find the angle that resonates with you the most. Um,
I like that. Cool.
yeah. So bottom up, top down, side in, inside out. I don't know,
Sure.
like all these things.
Sure.
So a good place to start sometimes is identity. Who am I? Uh, and if you define who you are, it often has strong a strong way of making you act in a certain way
Mm,
because we tend to align with who we think we are and who other people think we are. Maybe for you or for someone who happens to just value what other people think of them, tell the entire world you're vegan. Tell the entire world I'm vegan, I never eat meat, I have no cheat days. And for some people, just because they said that to other people, they can never, you know, cheat
that's
because
crazy.
like some people are wired
Yeah.
that way,
Yeah.
right? Um, for me, an important principle to create. So if you want to start like at the principle layer, an important principle to create was no cheat days,
Mm,
like hard line, because often people ask like why like don't you, for example, like if pepperoni touches a pizza, can't you just pick off the pepperoni? Like it's you're not actually eating it. Or another thing is like, I mean the animal was already killed, it's already dead, you're not killing it by eating it now, or these kinds of
yeah.
things.
Totally.
For me, hard line, hard line that is like somewhat far from the border towards the vegan end. Like if you create a spectrum vegan meat eating, and maybe picking the pepperoni off is like, it's maybe you'd still say it's on the vegan end, but it's a little closer to. For me, hard line that's very far is principle, and I just don't break it.
Hmm.
And so I don't need to make a decision in a moment.
Hmm.
Uh, that's an important thing for many people, like relieving yourself of the decision making in a moment, because if you try to make the decision then you might
So you make the decision.
you you pre-make the decision, and that's what the system is. You pre-make the decision and you follow it,
Hmm.
right? um that's what systems are for. You don't need to make the decision. You're almost an automaton. And so um like I say no before I even think about it, right? Like if someone offers me, something, my principle can be say no before you think about it. Say no, and then I'm like, fuck, I wish I didn't say no. But you already said no, and that reinforces itself each time you do it, right? So that was an important that one for me in terms of veganism. Um, Again, like you might tackle it from bottom up protocol. I mean that's a protocol. Say no before thinking about it, um, or you know, don't go out with friends to somewhere that's gonna have cheese. That's gonna have downstream another effect of like affecting your social life, right? Is that something you're willing to do? Maybe that can work for you. Um, until you're past the point where the temptation bothers you,
Yeah.
for example.
Yeah. I mean, in theory, I think this is a really powerful way to do it. Like,
Yeah,
you know, put that line, put that line far away.
yeah,
The no cheat days thing, I think that probably doesn't work for everyone. Some people need like more of a gradual
yeah.
transition period maybe to
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
Um Thoughts?
I mean, I had a gradual transition to veganism. I mean, I became vegetarian first. That was a hard, like, literally one day. I was like meat eater vegetarian. It was funny. I was in KFC when I became vegetarian, and it was literally the flip of a switch. I exited the KFC line, and I was vegetarian. It's weird.
Nice.
But then it took me like 12 years. My intention was to become vegan, and vegetarian was a transition, but that took me 12 years. I did have a gradual process, um, but being vegetarian, like, gave me certain habits and certain principles which I now use as it's just like expanded to
Mm.
more foods, right? So that gradual process is very valid. Like start somewhere where you can build particular habits that you can build upon
Mm.
as you know gradually transition into the thing you want.
And your reason for doing it was strong enough to help you to carry out that entire process.
Yes.
Because that's a key part of it, I feel like. If you don't have a reason or like a why for why you're actually uh creating this new system, then I feel like it won't succeed, right? Like
Right. Right. Absolutely. And I think that's where maybe you start at the higher layer. What are your values?
yeah.
And what is your identity?
I almost feel like that's more like it's at least as important as like the systems you're creating. You need to ask, what are my values? And then from there create the systems.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think without that, it's very hard to succeed in creating a new system
Yeah,
if you don't have a good reason to do it.
yeah. And perhaps the upstream system you need to change is the habit of acting in alignment with your values, because that is another meta habit, as you call it, that will affect certain things. Maybe I just have a habit of just disregarding my values in certain moments, which I think many of us probably have in different areas of our lives.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so maybe tackling that habit and strengthening your ties to your values is where you need to start in order to.
Yeah. I think doing that on its own will just create an identity, and that
Yeah,
identity will downstream.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So strengthening your identity is
How do you do that? Strengthening your connection to your value. I don't know if we need to get into this, but like maybe like I don't know, can you do it quickly?
um
Like
yes,
Can you talk
Yes.
about it quickly?
Yes. Repetition, the people you're around.
Hmm.
I think the number of times per year, month, week, day, hour, minute that you expose yourself to the identity you want and reinforce that identity. I mean, if you look at someone who has a really strong identity, they're watching videos about this thing, they're engaged in this thing all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah. I wanted to say that too, because like, let's say you're around certain people, um, but like not all of these people exhibit like the value you want to create. Go on YouTube and watch someone who has this value,
Yeah,
and continually do that. I feel like, or read a book. Some like, I think media can have a really big effect. I think we already
absolutely.
talked about it, but I just wanted to like call that out.
Absolutely. In this day and age, like you can be around someone all the time that someone you don't even know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you know how many people hang out with Kai Senat every night just because like they're watching his stream for hours.
Yeah.
You know what I
True.
mean? Like
Yeah. True.
find a streamer if you're, Gen Z or Gen Alpha or some shit. And like you know, be around that all the time.
Yeah.
If you're around that all the time, it will seep into your identity. Um, just repetition. I think we're creatures of repetition. What we're continuously exposed to, infiltrates our mind, infiltrates who we become. Um, read, watch, engage, and yeah, the people you surround yourselves with in person too. If you are able to surround yourself with the particular type of person whose identity you want to adopt, that's going to be one of the highest leverage things you can do.
Yeah. That goes back into environment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think repetition, people you're around, um, that's two of the highest leverage things to shape your own identity.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say similar things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um. Yeah. I think I would want to. I think this is a great place to like, you know, pause this section of this topic, because I also wanted to get into social systems, like systems that govern communities
Yeah.
and societies and
Yeah.
civilizations and
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah.
I think we need to do a part 2 for that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. That will get into not systems for an individual, but for two people, how two people communicate, how a group communicates, and expanding out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting topic. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
excited to talk about that.
I think those types of systems are I mean, if you think systems for the individual are powerful, like systems for many people is exponentially more powerful.
Absolutely.
But we still need to talk about the individual level, because that will be the building block for what we talk about next.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, some takeaway question time.
All right. Yeah. So, okay, as you go about your day and your life after this podcast, thank you for listening, by the way.
You're the goat if you're still here. By
If you're still here, shout out you. Um, so a question I want you to ponder is what are your existing systems, and think of a goal you have and how you can leverage existing systems and, you know, tune things in your existing systems to optimize for that goal. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I would invite people to examine their values and examine how well their existing systems align with their values, and see, what is that identity that they're creating, and if those things aren't aligned, maybe ask if they want those to be more aligned. And if they do, then we listed a whole bunch of great ideas, or we talked about a bunch of great ideas that they can do that with. So, yeah, just maybe a quick little audit of their own
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, that's a fantastic one. Cool. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your time here on Earth. um, thank you for listening. Take care.
Thank you for listening. Hope you